So it's been a minute. Let's catch up. I cut my hair, I quit my job. Let's talk about Sandman. Hi everybody, welcome back to A Well-Read Nerd. I'm Amber, and as you can tell, today we're going to be talking about Sandman, the TV show. Now, it just premiered a little over a week ago while I'm filming this. So, we're going to talk about it. This is my non-spoilery review. There will be a spoilery review. It is important to me, not hit or miss whether or not it's important to you guys, but it's important to me to talk about the spoilers because I think it's going to lay a lot of groundwork moving forward, and also might have to do with what network season 2 is going to be on. In any case, let's get into Sandman. For the uninitiated, Sandman was a graphic novel originally spearheaded by Neil Gaiman, but there were other people involved over time, that ran under the DC Comics umbrella. Sandman is in fact part of the DC universe. That's right, this guy and this guy are in the same universe and oftentimes interact with each other, but that's not really important right here. The publication began writing and inking in 1988. The first issues were published in 1989. And it was during a grittier time in comic books. This was when Watchmen was out. This was when Batman Year One came out. The Daredevil Origins comic came out around the same time. It was a grittier, I wouldn't say more grounded, but a grittier time in comic books. They were looking at more adult themes. They had started to distance themselves from the Comic Code Authority, at least with some titles. They started having adults titles. By that I mean like certain things would be branded to let people know that they weren't for children. They were comic books that were definitely geared towards at least the 16 plus, but definitely the 18 plus category, and a lot of times sort of like rated R movies. But yeah, that's sort of where Sandman came from. When I first heard that they were going to be doing an adaptation of Sandman, I was super excited. I really loved the comics when I read them in college. They really resonated with me. They dealt with some darker themes. There were horror elements to it, which I really liked. And I also like superhero comics, so the fact that it was tangentially connected to like the DC comics and the superhero sort of vibed with me at the time. Also, I was getting into Hellblazer, which for anybody who doesn't know is the John Constantine comic. I had a friend turn me on it in college too. Yeah, it all sort of resonated with me, so I really liked that. But as casting information and stuff came out, I was hesitant about some things. Anytime there's an adaptation dealing with like comic books and stuff, fans tend to have their own interpretations of what the characters are like. I don't really have any issue with changing the race or the gender of a character. I'm more worried about whether or not the actor can portray the elements in the character that I liked. So some of the critiques that I've seen online, which if you want my full opinions, comment down below. I'll do a whole video. I'll do a full rant about some of the little snowflakes over on Twitter telling Neil Gaiman he doesn't understand his own comics. Yeah, it was a fun few days over there. If you weren't over there for that, yeah, it was a teetotal fecal hurricane on Twitter for a few days there. But yeah, Tom Sturridge as Morpheus didn't resonate with me right away just because I wasn't that familiar with his work and the work that I had seen. I wasn't sure if he was going to be the Morpheus I had in my head. He wasn't. He was fine. I'll go into it in the next video with my spoiler talk. But overall, his characterization was fine within the context of the adaptation of the TV show. Same thing with Jenna Coleman, who played Joanna Constantine, a gender-swapped version of John Constantine. My second favorite iteration of John Constantine, because there's only been like 4 in media, if you don't count the like cartoons and stuff that have come out, even when you do count some of those. So it's all hard to make a top 2. But yeah, she is my number 2 favorite iteration of Constantine, or Constantine as they say in the show. That's annoying. I don't like that. It's always been Constantine in my head. So I don't like the fact that they changed the enunciation, even though I do know Gaiman has said that's how it's supposed to be said. I don't care. So it's a nitpicky thing. But she was fine, but I only knew her from Doctor Who. So nothing against Who. It's just the fact that it can be limiting with showing an actor's range. And her arc wasn't the strongest arc, especially once Smith left and Capaldi came in. So, I didn't have high hopes for that. But she did prove me wrong. She was very good. Let's see, who else? Boyd Holbrook as the Corinthian. Knocked it out. I didn't know much about him beforehand. He was another, like, I sort of knew who he was, but not really kind of deal. But I think his characterization in the show was better than the characterization in the comic books. That's my opinion. Like, he brought an essence to the character that, well, first of all, his character's arc was expanded on in the TV show, but even then, with what the Corinthian had in the comic books compared to the TV show, even if they had been the same, I think he would have still added a depth to the character that was just lacking in the original. So I think it was very good that when they cast him, they probably realized he could expand on that and went ahead and expanded on it a little bit more, and I think that was a good editorial choice, especially with the overall narrative of the first season. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just hitting the highlights of the ones that I liked and didn't like. Gwendolyn Christie was almost perfect as Lucifer. Almost. There was something that just didn't quite click for me between the dialogue and her nonverbal cueing, especially with her scenes with Morpheus, that, like, it didn't meld. However, if there was a second season, I don't believe a recast is necessary. She wasn't somebody that didn't meld well enough with the character that I feel like they need to recast her with anybody, or that she will turn in a lackluster performance in the next season. I think it might have largely been an interpretation on her part of how she wanted to present the character. And that's fine. It's not bad. It just didn't click the way I want the character of Lucifer to click. And if you haven't read the Lucifer comics or seen the other TV show isn't necessarily... Gwendolyn Christie is more apt to be a more truthful representation of the comic book Lucifer, in my opinion, than the other, like, CW show Lucifer. Don't get me wrong, I love Lucifer, but I don't think the characterization was truthful enough to the comics. I feel like Christie was much more truthful to, especially the earlier runs of Lucifer in the comics. That is my opinion. You're welcome to fight me in the comments. Boost me in the algorithm. But yeah, there's that. Charles Dance was fine with his introductory role, as Charles Dance always is. Kirby Howell-Baptiste. Amazing. She was amazing as Death. I was hesitant when she was chosen for Death because Death is my favorite character and I wasn't familiar with her work. So even going back and finding some of her other work to see if I would change my opinion before the show aired, not really. But I just think that's because she hadn't really done a character that I found that was the same type as Death. But she definitely filled that role. She personified the character of Death on screen. She was amazing at it, and I loved her portrayal. David Thewlis as John D / Dr. Destiny. They don't call him Dr. Destiny in the show. And it's where they cut out the DC stuff, like I mentioned earlier. But, fine. He was fine. He was more sympathetic in the TV shows than he was in the comics. I will get into that in spoiler talk in my next video. But, fine. He was fine. Let's see. Mason Alexander Park knocked it out as Desire. I can't go into that without talking about spoilers. Watch the next video. Let's see. Patton Oswalt was fine as Matthew. I wasn't overly fond of the Raven characters in the comics, but he did add a bit of levity to it that was enjoyable. Keo Ray or Rob as Rose Walker, also good. I can't really get into her performance without talking about spoilers, but she was a good addition. I'm assuming at this point you know, we've looked at the cast list. If not, some of the people I've mentioned weren't in the promotional materials. That's fine. There's plenty of other characters who weren't in promotional materials either. But yeah, she was good. I think she's a little young. And by that I just mean the actress isn't as well honed, but she does come across in those emotional moments and those introspective moments in character for how I think somebody of the character's age and the overall characterization would act. So there is that. Like, she's not outside the scope of reasoning of how a character would react. Now, that's the cast, an overview of the cast. Writing, mostly spot on. There were a few dead spots. It happens in every show. It's not the end of the world. Direction and cinematography were mostly spot on as well. There was nothing that was glaringly obvious. All of the episodes had a cohesive through and feel to them. So there was that. I will say this show does deal with difficult topics, so be warned. There is blood, there is death, there is all sorts of things, so keep that in mind. Like, blood and death doesn't really bother me, but there were a few things that like sort of hit me in the feels while I was watching it. I kind of had to pause the TV, so take that for what you will as a trigger. If you want some more triggers and stuff like that, there's a few I can mention that might be triggering events for individuals where they might not want to engage with certain parts of this series, but I'll talk about it in my spoiler review, so just go over there and click that. I'll timestamp everything like I've been learning how to do, so there's that. Alright, so overall, should you go out of your way to get Netflix in order to watch The Sandman? No, you should not. If you've got a friend who will let you borrow their password for a weekend so you can binge watch it, great. If you feel like starting up a new email and popping $20 on a prepaid card in case you forget to cancel it after 30 days and getting that free trial, go for it. You can catch some other things too. But my main reason behind saying this is the fact that I don't believe the next few seasons are going to premiere on Netflix. What do I mean like that? Netflix is experiencing a lot of turmoil right now internally. They're doing all sorts of things to try to curtail loss, which was mostly perpetuated by their own inability to budget. Which I get it. Same here, except I run a small YouTube channel, and if I happen to spend $75 extra because I see something cool on the internet and I want to share it with you guys, it's not the end of the world. Like, I just have to eat ramen for a couple of days. Like, it's no fast food week after work, no impulse buys. When they oopsie and overspend, they spend literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on a TV show that nobody watches. There's a big difference. And they've been doing that a lot. Instead of focusing on things that are good and like following through those, it's just dump all the crap on there as their mentality, and it's not a good business model anymore, especially when there's a lot of competition. Now, because of all of that, and because remember what I said, this is a DC property. Sandman exists in the same universe as Batman and Superman and all of that. It is owned by DC. And DC Distribution, because this was done by Warner Brothers, one of their production companies that just went into Netflix because Netflix shopped around for the option for it. Warner Brothers is exclusively with HBO, or has been in the past. I don't know exactly what their business relationship is now, because HBO was bought by Discovery, and that's a whole mess. I can do an entire video about the fact that they seem to think women only watch Discovery and men only watch HBO Max, which I don't even know how they came up with that statistical information, but they've got their own issues. And because of that, I'm not 100% sure they're not going to yank the distribution rights for season 2 back from Netflix so that they can run it on HBO in order to boost their own numbers. Like I said, I don't know what the exact relationship is right now. I can't remember if Warner Brothers and HBO are owned by the same company, like how that's all working with the merger with Discovery. Like, it is so hard to keep track, but just keep in mind, like, every single company in the United States is owned by like one of 4 companies, and that's it. So, you know, whenever Procter and Gamble or Yum or whoever owns, you know, Discovery, decides what's going to go on with that, they'll figure it out. But yeah, I think because of that, it's less likely to run on Netflix the next year or the year after that, whenever they're done filming, because it hasn't officially been greenlit yet. So keep that in mind. That's another reason not to get a subscription. Overall, though, like, yeah, if you've got a friend who's got a subscription, you want to go over to their house, you want to binge watch, somebody let you borrow a password, you want to, like, do a prepaid card and get a free trial so you can watch it. All excellent things. Locking yourself into a subscription contract just to see The Sandman, not worth it. Wait and see what happens next year. Or even in the next few months. If I hear anything good like going around on there, I'll let you guys know. But yeah. So that's going to be it for today. This is my non-spoilery talk for The Sandman. There will be a spoilery episode also coming out this week, so keep an eye out for that. It just would have been like an hour long if I tossed them in together, and I know there's some people who don't like to be spoiled, so this is my opinion on it for those who don't want to be spoiled too bad. In any case, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to, comment down below. Let me know what you thought of Sandman. Let me know if there was anything I said in here that you didn't know, like the fact that this is actually part of the DC extended universe. Yeah, go ahead and comment down below. You guys know I love talking to you. If you like this kind of content and this is your first time seeing my content, feel free to hit that subscribe button and see more things like this. I mostly do reviews, unboxings. I do everything. Like, anything you can think of, just go look through my back catalog, and I've probably done it at least once. One of my earliest videos on this channel was me trying Yule Mist. Just because I bought it from a butcher shop while I was on vacation, and it seemed like a good idea. But yeah. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple days with my spoilery review. Bye.